For the next 100 days, I'll be stacking shelves, ripping card packs, buying stock, ripping more card packs, spraying stinkies, and ripping even more card packs, all to feed my ever-growing addiction for Tetramon cards. That's right, we're playing TCG Card Shop Simulator. Now, to be the best like no one ever was, I want all the cards. I'm talking the whole collection. Is this possible within 100 days? I have no idea. Am I going to develop a crippling addiction to trading cards? Probably. Either way, here's how it went. On day 1, I got the keys to my new shop, and it was already time to make a really difficult decision. What do I name the shop? I settled for buy some cards please. I think it gets across my tone of desperation, and the please adds a sprinkle of politeness. A prompt from the game showed up and told me to buy some card packs. So I cracked open my phone and navigated over to the stock app. The only cards I could buy were the basic ones, so I put 4 boxes in the basket and proceeded to check out. That's when I realised I was spending 230 freedom points, and I still had to pay an $8 delivery charge. I hit purchase on this extortionate basket and closed the app. When I next turned around, as if by magic, the boxes were on the pavement outside the door. This was way faster than Amazon. I see why there was an $8 delivery charge now. I stacked the shelf with my new cards, and it looked like 4 boxes was actually perfect. Luckily, we're not in London, so the 3 boxes I left outside were still there when I came back for them. Next task was to price up the cards. So I did market price, then added 10%, then added 10%, and then finally I added 10%. And with that, the store was ready. We flipped the sign to open and hit the counter, ready to serve some customers. And just then, our first customer came in. They bought a pack of cards, I gathered up his change, and when I looked up, we had a second customer in the queue. This was exciting. Then a third came in, except when he got to the cards, he just stood around and complained about how expensive the cards were, but then proceeded to buy 2 packs anyway. And then I stood around, waiting for our next customer. I stood by the door looking for a customer, you know, like those restaurants you see abroad, with people who stand outside trying to convince tourists to come dine with them. But it worked, 2 more customers came in, both with complaints about pricing, but both bought packs. This guy even paid with his credit card. Finally, we hit 5 customers served, and our next task was unlocked. We had to grab a few packs from a shelf and open them up. This was where our addiction would begin. In our first pack we got a shiny Minster, which looked pretty cool, but I needed more. Pack 2 had a silver bordered Sunflork and a gold bordered Werbu. In our third and final pack we got a shiny Guppy, as well as a silver bordered Pygmy. By the time we were done ripping open these 3 packs, I had a queue of 3 customers, and a new task. Get to shop level 2. At this point I hadn't actually realised how useful opening packs were for gaining XP, because if I had realised we'd have hit shop level 2 pretty quickly. Instead I served a bunch more customers. One thing I did realise was that it was taking ages for me to give change, because I would have to click like 4 or 5 times just to give the right amount of change per person, which was really slowing me down. So I went over and rounded up the price of the cards up to $4. The problem with this was the $4 was too expensive, and customers would walk in and walk back out again without buying a thing. As a shop owner, that's obviously a problem, so I nudged the price down to $3.80. While I waited for customers to come in, I tried to get through the other door in my shop, but it was locked. Then I browsed the app on my phone, where I could buy more stock for the shop, the DIY app, which let me order shelves and shop stuff, and the Reno Big app, which let me expand my store space. The event app let us set up events in the store. The TCG Price app was a way for us to keep track of various product values. And Go Recruit was somewhere for us to find employees. I served a couple more customers and then found out about the R key, which let me admire my collection of trading cards. We were at 20 cards and there were 1,332 to collect. I don't know if I was going to be able to collect them all in 100 days. Eventually it started to get dark, like really dark. I tried to serve a customer and it was painful to say the least. Whilst I was fumbling around, I spotted a green cloud float into the shop, but I needed to spot the light switch first. Once I hit the switch, I served Sir Stinkalot, and then finally realised I had hit shop level 2. My new task was to buy a play table, so I jumped into the DIY app and bought the play table for $200, and obviously it was delivered instantly. I set the table up in the corner and that was it, to be honest. It just sat there. With about 1 minute left before closing, someone decided to sit down at the table. I started getting flashbacks to when I worked in retail. Like, dude, seriously? At exactly 9 PM? Well, this other dude came in and sat down to play against Lizzie, so I just stood there and watched. Finally, when their little battle ended, Joey bought a few packs and then left, and that was our first day done. We even got a daily report of how he did. Looks like I sold 55 packs and our revenue was $224, but we made a $217 loss. Oh, and 2.5 hours of playtime on the table. Shout out to Lizzie and Joey for that one. On day 2, I discovered that we had bills to pay. Kinda makes sense, we are running a business here. I didn't bother paying the bills and continued serving our amazing customers. Brian came in and sat at the table, but no one played with him and dude was just sat there for like almost an hour. Finally, around 11 AM, Jimmy comes in and sits down to play with him. I also bought another table because Joey came back in to play a game, but Brian and Jimmy were hogging the table. I slapped that bad boy down and prayed for more customers because my current task was to let 10 customers play card games in the shop, and I thought that the more tables I had, the faster we'd get this task complete. Also, it seemed like pretty decent money. It didn't take long for me to complete the task, and our next mission was to reach shop level 3. Oh, also, halfway through the day, I realised that I could switch the currency to actual money, so I swapped from dollary dues to Great British pounds. Now the numbers made more sense to me. And to be honest, that was it for day 2. After 9 PM, Mike was sat in the corner of the shop just tweaking, so I kicked him out and then we wrapped up the day. This time we actually made some profit, a whole 19 quid. Which was good considering we dropped 200 on another table today. I kicked off day 3 by purchasing a license to buy boxes of 64 card packs for the same price as 2 32 pack boxes. Yeah, it didn't make sense to me either. I spent some more time restocking the shelves and ordered a few extra boxes because I'm cheap and I don't want to keep paying delivery fees. It also took me until day 3 to realise that I could put the packs on the bottom shelf too. Sometimes I feel like I'm capable of forgetting to breathe. I also discovered that you can have different events running for the tables, and I was making money on them by the hour, so I decided to bump it up from 7 quid to 8 quid just to see what happens. And then like an hour later I bumped it up again to £8.50. After serving a few more customers, I decided to treat myself to some more packs. I got a bunch more new cards, but nothing shiny, which is a shame. Also, Mike came back and continued tweaking in the corner. While he was sat there, I realised the table was too expensive for the customers, so I dropped it down to £7.50. Not long after that, Leo came in and challenged Mike to a battle, and I'm not joking when I say as soon as Leo sat down, Mike started losing. I mean, either that or he just wasn't a fan of Leo. I was also so engrossed in browsing the store on my phone that when I put the phone down, I realised we had a stinker in the shop. Not that I could do anything about her. Also, the game doesn't let you know when you hit a new shop level, which is kind of annoying because it took way too long for me to realise I'd hit shop level 3. This also meant that I had a new mission, which I hadn't noticed until now either. The next task I had was to buy a card table and place it down in the shop. Easy enough. I slapped it down next to the shelf of cards and the task was updated. Now I had to put 10 single cards on the table and set a price for them. It was 9 PM at this point and Murphy was just sat at the table on his ones. In an attempt to get him to leave, I went disco mode on the light switch, but that didn't faze him. So I let him chill while I set up my fancy pants card table, except I put one card down and got distracted. I discovered that if you pick the table up and anyone is sat at the table, they just get up and leave. So I booted Murphy and then got on with placing the single cards. It only took like 200 years to do, and then I was ready for day 4. Today's task was to sell 10 single cards, and to be honest, the single cards are selling more often than I expected. But we're talking like 30 pence cards here, not really worth a lot. I tried to keep on top of the table, making sure to keep it stocked up, and then Matt came in and bought like 35 quid worth of cards. Our first big spender. In general, it seemed like customers were spending more today. One thing I made sure to do when I was stocking the singles was to only sell duplicates, purely because I was meant to be completing my own collection too. During my downtime, I decided to browse a stock app and I discovered that I could order a new item. Basic card boxes. The license was only 150 quid, so I took the plunge and ordered a box to stock up with. I spent some time reorganising my shelf so I could have a place to sell the card boxes. I slapped them on the shelf and forgot to price them up because I was in a rush to serve Sharon. She was going to be the one that bought my 10th single card, and just like that I had a new task. Complete 100 checkouts. I was already on 69. Nice. I finally priced up the card boxes, and despite my discovery the other day of how long it takes to hand out change, I still decided to price this thing at £3.49. Like, what was I thinking? Just before the store closed, I cracked open a few more packs, and on my final pack of the day, I got a card worth 66 quid. It was a gold bordered, shiny Batrang. It was a cool looking card to be fair. Oh, and my final customer of the day bought 2 card boxes too, and that was like a 60 quid purchase. Looks like the card boxes were worth it. With the store closed, I quickly ran around and restocked the single cards. I bumped up the price of the card boxes to 40 quid and ended the day with a tidy 225 quid worth of profit. Day 5 was an expensive day. I kicked it off by ordering some card packs and a box of card boxes. Within the first 2 hours of being open, half of my single cards had already been sold, which was decent when you consider that they were around £3 each. The annoying part was having to keep the table stocked up, whilst also serving customers. Oh, and the fact that I had to keep opening packs in order to have single cards to actually sell in the first place. For some reason at this point, I felt I needed more shelves, so I dropped 300 on another shelf, and then filled half of the top shelf with cards and left the rest empty. I had £62 left, and with that I paid for a £50 license to sell clear card sleeves. Not sure what drove that decision. I didn't have enough money to actually order the sleeves as well, so I set about rearranging the shelves again. The idea was to have a bottom shelf for card boxes only. In the process of organising, I opened a couple of packs. On the last pack, I ripped open a killer, a shiny Nanomite X card. This thing was worth almost £400. That's wild. A good way to end day 5, because nothing else really happened after that. I closed the day off with 85 out of 100 checkouts completed, £433 in revenue and £167 worth of loss. Day 6 started off with me buying a license for deodorant. If the customers aren't going to spray themselves, then I'll do it for them. I stocked the shelves up with the deodorant and some clear card sleeves too, and then sold a gold Batarang card worth £88. We served a few more customers, and in no time at all we had served our 100th customer. Oh, and we hit level 5 too. That was it for day 6. We made £459 worth of profit, which I think was our best day so far. Day 7 came round, and to be perfectly honest, only 3 notable things happened. We bought our first pack of rare cards and got them stocked up. We sprayed a stinky for the first time, and we paid our first electric bill. The rest of the day consisted of price adjustments and customer serving. I also noticed that we didn't have any new tasks anymore. Day 8 and 9 were completely uneventful, but on day 10 we were a bit busier. Firstly, we bought a new type of shelf, which I read online could hold more cards. The idea was to eventually transition exclusively over to these shelves. Once I'd moved over what I could, I boxed up the first shelf and kept it in the corner for safekeeping. At around 5 PM we reached level 7. And by the end of the day, we'd got rid of all the old shelves, and it was looking sleek. And despite my spending spree, we still made £174 in profit. Day 11 started off with me making a silly mistake. I bought a personal shelf instead of a normal shelf, which was useless to me. And when I sold it, I lost £75 on it. So to vent my frustration, I opened a few packs, which I started realising were taking forever. I also realised that it really didn't feel worth it to sell single cards which were worth pennies, because it felt like the customers bought less items when they bought these singles, and that meant that if they bought a 30p single card, it felt like they were less likely to buy the £40 card box, which were profit machines. So I decided to pack the single card shelf away for a while, because I think leaving it empty also had an impact on the customers' buying choices. Going back to the opening of packs, I took a look in the settings and discovered that you could speed up the pack opening animation. So I cranked that bad boy up to 100, because time is money, right? That definitely felt faster, but was it fast enough? I wasn't convinced. The rest of day 11 consisted of me opening more packs and buying a new play table. On day 12 we hit level 8. Did that unlock anything? I actually don't know. While the day was mostly uneventful, I did buy our first ever stinky spray machine, which hopefully saves me some time. Oh, and we bought the license to get the boxes of 64 rare card packs. Day 12 wrapped up with a whopping £756 loss, mainly because we dropped around a bag on that stink machine. And the only thing to celebrate on day 13 was that we reached level 9. On day 14 we finally paid some more of our bills, and this girl bought like 5 cans of deodorant. When day 15 came around, we did a few things. Firstly, we hit level 10, and then we bought the licenses to stock some nicer looking card sleeves and a rare card box, which I'd been looking forward to for a while. Also, one of my favourite things in this game is that I can pick up a can of deodorant from a shelf, spray half a can at someone, and then put it back on the shelf, and I promise you, someone will pay full price for it. We spent the rest of the day stocking up shelves of new items. Day 16 and 17 I didn't get up to much out of the ordinary. A lot of card pack opening and serving a bunch more customers. However, on day 18, I went on a literal shopping spree and a reorganising mission. First I decided to move the shop around. I put the shelves on the back wall, spread out the play tables a bit, and even moved my till around. Next I bought another play table, a workbench and a small warehouse shelf, because my spare stock situation was getting out of hand. Firstly, I put down the warehouse shelf and didn't have a clue on how to use it. So instead of clicking on it with the box in my hand, I was trying to put the box down on the shelf manually. which wasn't working. Eventually I did figure it out and got to stacking. Next I moved on to putting out the play table, bringing us up to a total of 4 tables. And then finally I put the workbench down and gave it a spin with a few spare cards. It had a few settings to customize the boxes. You could set a minimum value for what cards are picked, a max price, and how many cards should remain. This would stop it from undoing my collection efforts. I made up a box but didn't have any empty shelves, so I kept it to the side for the moment. And that was day 18. Day 19 didn't see a lot of action, just a lot of grinding, and I'm not talking the fun kind. But on day 20 we did something exciting. First thing in the morning we jumped into the Renovig app and expanded the store, which gave us this really awkward and crappy extra bit of space. And to be honest, it was such a useless space that it actually pissed me off a little bit. I guess once we expanded a few more times it would give us some actual usable space. Anyway, for the moment I moved the workbench into that corner and then once again decided to reshuffle the store. This time I put the shelves against the wall by the entrance and bought another one to add some more shelf space, because we'd unlocked a few new items. First we secured a license and ordered our first plushie. This was the pygmy. I guess we'll see how well this sells. There was another item I had my sights set on, but I needed to build up a bit more money first. In between serving customers, I slowly opened a few more packs just to pass the time and to help bulk up my collection. Finally we had enough money to get the license for epic cards. This was exciting. We got the order in for a box of epic cards and I already had a shelf marked out for it. So I filled it up and priced it up and prayed that they sold. And that was day 20. Day 21 was a down day with a lot of selling, stocking and card pack opening. On day 22 I jumped onto my phone and bought 2 new tables. They seemed to be making decent money, so I thought if I scaled them up we'd see a good return. Next I had a little browse of a tabletop app on my phone. And this is where you could order board games. We had an empty shelf in the shop, so I gave the board games a chance. They had like 27 quid of profit on them, which is good, but I had a sneaky suspicion that they weren't a high volume item. We were starting to get to a point in the game where it felt like the progress was slowing down a bit. That could mainly have been due to my lack of knowledge. And with that I wrapped up day 22. The next 2 days were more or less a grind for money. So that really consisted of me serving as many customers as I could, stocking up the shelves in between and opening some more card packs. This landed us on day 25. We were 25% of the way there now. So I took a look at my card collection just to see where we were at this point. I'd collected 282 cards out of a possible 1,332. By my calculation, I was behind. See, if we were 25% of our way through this 100-day challenge, realistically I should have collected around 333 cards. All this meant was that I really needed to step up my game. Something to keep in mind, I guess. Next thing I did was order another smelly machine, because I'd read online that you actually needed 2 sprays to clear a smelly fog. I put this one next to the first one so they hit at the same time. Next up I paid my rent and electric bill, and then took this opportunity to expand the store again. I'd recently learned that expanding the store increased the amount of customers you got, so expanding the store twice will hopefully have a good impact. Also, expanding the store meant that I actually had some usable space now, unlike the little corner that I got last time. The rest of the day was spent recuperating costs. At the end of the night, I made a decision to bring back the single card table, and then stocked it up ready for the next day. Despite my outrageous spending today, we still made 339 quid worth of profit. Looks like the store expansion did its job. Whilst day 26 was a very busy day, there wasn't a lot that I did. The single cards sold really fast, and because I was so busy stocking shelves and serving customers, I couldn't keep up with maintaining the single cards. So what I did instead was I picked it back up and put it into its box and just left it out the front. That way customers wouldn't be disappointed by the empty shelf. Day 27 was much of the same, all the singles sold quick. So I put the shelf away as soon as it was empty. I also realised that because I'm so busy with customers, I can't open packs, which means my collecting slows down and I have less single cards to sell too. Day 28 was a grinding day. We hit a record high. We had 6.6k in our account, and we'd made 3.2k of pure profit. Things felt like they were ramping up a bit, and the next day I expanded the store again. Hopefully this meant more customers, but because it was a new line on the expansion, we were back to having an awkward crappy corner to find some use for. So I shoved the workbench back in there. Next, I needed to deal with a mess of spare stock. My original warehouse shelf just wasn't making a dent on the tidiness, so I bought another one, a bigger one. It was about time I got serious with my organising. Oh, also I bought a second bin because honestly I was so sick of having to walk out of a store every time I had to throw a box away. I also bought another shelf to add to my collection. This should help me with a spare stock situation as well. By the end of the day, we'd made a loss of almost 6.5k, and that was mainly because I bought so much extra stuff. Day 30 was a normal day. Well, until the end. After I closed the store, I just stood there like an absolute fiend, just opening pack upon pack upon pack. And my conclusion was that this was taking far too long. So I cheated? I mean, you could call it cheating. I would call it taking care of my mental health. I installed a mod, okay? Please don't shame me for this. It's a very simple mod. It just opens packs for me and opens them way quicker. It was better than me having to sit there staring like a zombie. This time around, I could stand at the till, and in between serving customers, I literally had a box next to me where I could open card packs. Also, this was the day that I stopped selling singles again, because I was realizing that the single cards were reducing the average basket price per customer. The moment I stopped selling the singles, customers started spending more money. It was really that simple. Day 32 was spent ripping open packs and doing everything I could to reach level 20. Why? Because at level 20 I'd be able to hire my first ever staff member, and I really needed someone to man the till so that I could spend more time opening card packs. But here's the thing, when I eventually reached level 20, I realised that I could unlock the legendary card packs too, which is a dilemma. It didn't matter though, because I couldn't afford to do either. So I ended the day and kicked off day 33 by hiring Dennis. Problem is that I had hired Broski to man the till, except the dude was so slow the customers kept piling up, so I swapped him over to stacking shelves instead, which was something else that he did painfully slowly. So I sent him back to the till and I set about opening some more packs. With Dennis on tills, it did make it easier for me to keep up with stocking the shelves. At the end of the day, I reshuffled the store again for the billionth time, unlocked the legendary packs and opened 4 of them. And that was it. On day 34, I fired Dennis. I'm sorry, he was just way too slow. The money I saved with not having him around, I spent on more play tables instead. I was also trying a new tactic. The idea was to man the till throughout the day and not bother opening any packs, and then once the store closed, I would restock, and any money I had left over, I can use to buy packs that I open for myself. Well, day 35 started with my account on minus £75. I spent most of the day grinding and then expanded the store. One thing I've been doing in the background was reducing my stock level, meaning that I would stock less variety but keep the higher profit items. So when customers came in, they would ultimately spend more money. Day 36 came with an update on our card collection. We had hit 605 cards collected. Doing the maths again, we were well ahead of where we needed to be. But the problem now was that when we opened packs, we were getting a lot more duplicates because the remaining cards that were missing were becoming rarer and rarer. Day 37, 38 and 39 were all grinding days. I spent all day serving customers and all night stocking up and opening packs. It was getting a bit mind numbing, but with that we hit day 40 and boy was it a busy day. We added green and blue battle decks to our shelves and I think we hit a new milestone. We managed to do almost 5.5k in profit. That was a solid day. And with only 60 days left of this challenge, things are starting to take shape. We were on track to collect a good chunk of the cards, and we'd started to make some decent money too. There wasn't much to talk about in day 41, but I did bring the singles card table back. On day 42 I got rid of it again. Instead I expanded the store further and spent a fair bit of time opening packs. I even increased the speed of a pack opening, and then we had a momentous occasion. We pulled our first ever ghost card. This thing was super cool, and considering that it took us until day 42 to pull this, I'm guessing they're extremely rare cards. The next day I had been doing some reading and it triggered me to try a new tactic. You see, what I discovered was that we have a limited amount of customers per day, but on top of that the store has a limited capacity as well. Put simply, the longer the customers stay in the store, the more they block new customers from coming in, which means that we may not get to see the full amount of customers, which could potentially reduce our profits. So I spent some time reshuffling the store, putting shelves next to the entrance and reducing both the stock we kept and the tables we hosted. The idea being that customers would spend less time in the store and therefore allow more customers to enter. And I think the idea worked, because at the end of day 43 our revenue had hit 6.4k. Now our profit was low, and that was because that same night we hired a new staff member. This time we hired Clark Cash, who was very fast at serving customers. Definitely better than Dennis. I could focus on stacking shelves and opening card packs, knowing that Clark had the tills on lock. With our new layout in place, a new staff member on the till, and the store fully stocked, day 45 was really just a test to see whether we'd see tangible increase in revenue. And considering we did over 4k in just profit, I'd say it's been effective. Day 46 was a victory run. I could spend so much more time opening packs and stacking shelves. We were at 669 cards collected, we'd hit 10k in our account, and we'd managed to pull another ghost card, our second so far. Day 47 was another uneventful day. Well, apart from we did get another ghost card. With day 48 being quite a normal day, most of the action took place after we closed. So we did the usual restock and unlocked our first ever Destiny card packs. Also, during our usual card opening session, I managed to pull a shiny worth £909. And in that same pack, we pulled another ghost card. That's 3 days in a row that we found a ghost card. I really think our luck has improved. Day 49 and 50 were uneventful again. Day 50 marked our halfway point, and also consisted of almost 10k in revenue, but only 3.4k in profit. On day 51, I switched things up. Firstly, I spent some time going around the different products and increasing the price of everything, and I brought back the singles card table, I know, but mainly because we had been opening packs like crazy and I'd built up a fair amount of decent value cards. And with Clark on the counter and my time split up between opening packs and stacking shelves, I had the time to keep the single card stocked up. On day 52, I spent a whopping 1700 on card packs just for me to open. Things were really ramping up. We even pulled a card worth 2.6k. 2.6k! Which is insane. I also did a cheeky and maxed out the opening animation on the cards using the mod, because super speed is just still not fast enough for my growing ambitions. Oh, and did I mention that I pulled yet another ghost card? Are we sure they're as rare as people say they are? With things moving smoothly, day 53 saw me expanding stock back out. In terms of variety, stocking a few more items in the hopes that we get more people finding what they're looking for. With my efforts continuing into day 54, where we kept up with the stocking and also hit a new milestone, we finally bought Shop Block B. This meant that that door in the corner was open now. I bought another warehouse shelf and stuck it in the new space. It wasn't a lot, but it was a good place to keep spare stuff. On day 55, I made the decision to remove the last of the play tables. They really weren't contributing much anymore, and if anything, they were affecting our potential profit. This really had a positive impact. I definitely felt like we had more customers coming in, but I started to realize that changes made to the store didn't have an immediate effect. So really, we had to wait until the end of day 56 to actually see the difference they made. During the day, I added another checkout based on the idea that we wanted to get customers in and out quickly. So if me and Clark teamed up, we'd serve double the amount of customers at a minimum. And it worked. Look at the numbers at the end of day 56. We had 124 customers come in, which is 21 more customers than yesterday. And on top of that, we served 124 customers, whereas yesterday we only served 89 customers. And it shows in our profits. £11,000 in revenue and 9.4k in profits. That was a record-breaking day. So when day 57 came around, I developed a strong strategy, one that I stole from someone online. Essentially, we had to let our stock run out and then reduce our variety down to a minimum of 7. I settled for 8, just to be safe. And then I picked out 8 of my highest profiting items and spent all my money on stocking them up. And this process bridged into day 58 and 59 too. Day 58 saw a revenue of 11,000, which was insane. Day 59 saw a revenue of 10k. And day 60, boy, that was the day that proved we'd hit our stride. We made 16k in revenue. We even bought the next tier of stinky sprayer. And I hired Mick to help us stack shelves. Day 61 basically kicked off with a lot of empty shelves. The stock was ready, so I had Mick and Clark help with stacking the shelves before we opened the store. And then once we opened it, I just had Clark jump back on the tills. I had also added these shelves in the middle, and the beauty of them was that they held a lot of stock. So the next step for me was to eventually transition into only using these shelves. They looked nicer too. The rest of the day had me and Clark on tills, while Mick ran around stocking shelves. Honestly, it went smoothly, and it showed, because we'd reached 19k in revenue today. And on day 62, not much happened. We expanded the store, so tomorrow should see an increase in customers. But other than that, it was business as usual. Day 63 was much of the same too. We spent some time organising the stockroom, and then by the end of the day, we'd reached a 23k revenue. So clearly the expansion yesterday made an impact. So I started day 64 by expanding the store again. Seeing how much it helped last time, it only made sense. And then I proceeded to drop 14k on stock. Probably excessive, but we'll see the results of it eventually. Anything that doesn't fit on the shop floor could go into the stock room. I made a fair dent and then left the rest for Mick to handle. And then I jumped on the second till. When it's Clark and me, we're able to get through a good amount of customers. And by 4 PM, we'd already made back what we'd spent on stock that morning. And by 7 PM, we'd hit 20k. It's crazy how much quicker we were making money. We ended the day with 24.6k in our account. So I used some of it to expand the store a second time. And even did 3 expansions on the storeroom too. I quickly reorganized the storeroom and set about restocking the store. Our day 65 started the same way most of our days start. A slow restock in the morning, followed by opening the store. I've also noticed that we get a morning rush of customers too, and in general they were spending way more. This guy here, he spent 528 quid. And this guy, he spent almost $1,000. It was actually rare to see anyone spending under £100. And on top of that, because of how much stock we were selling, the shelves were emptying too quick and I kept having to order more stock every day, which was really eating into my expansion efforts. Plus, I hadn't been opening packs for the last few days either because of how swamped we were. On day 66, I came up with a new tactic. Basically, I'd read online that when a customer comes to any shelf, they roll an imaginary dice. The first is to determine which level of a shelf to pick from, top, middle or bottom, and the second is how many of the items to take, up to a certain level. So this made me think that realistically, if you want the customer to select the highest profit item, then really you need to flood all the shelves with high profit items. So what I did was to fill the bottom, top and middle with 3 different high profit items. And then the other 5 items will be on the shelves in the middle of the store. I spent most of the day going between stocking the floor and jumping on till to help Clark, and by the time we had closed the store for the day, we were sitting on 37k in our account and almost 34k of profit. One thing was clear though, we needed an extra pair of hands, so the next day I hired Benji. This cool dude was fast at everything, so I knew I could assign him to stocking and rely on him to at least make some progress. I also had to do another stock order, but this time I figured out which items were actually making me the real money, and it was mainly these rare Destiny boxes, so I put an order in for 80, and bearing in mind each box contains 8 units, which is a lot of card boxes. I basically decided to fill all the shelves with these card boxes, and every time an item runs out we replaced it on the shelf with these boxes. And honestly I left the rest with Mick and Benji, spending the rest of the day on till, and by the time we reached 1 PM we'd already made like 16k. Another thing I noticed was that customers needed around 2 days to adjust to changes. So if we'd made a change in terms of what items we were stocking, the next day would usually consist of customers walking around looking all confused for that item. And then the following day is when they would actually accept that it's no longer there and they'd buy something different instead. By the end of the day, we'd almost filled all of the shelves with these card boxes, and honestly, we were smashing it. The last thing I did before closing for the day was I moved the warehouse shelves to the shop floor. My logic was that it's less steps to take, so quicker to stock shelves from. The next day I was quick with ordering because I knew exactly what I wanted. I bought 80 card boxes again and immediately opened the store because I realised that it didn't matter if we were fully stocked up in the morning or not. The shelves were going to go empty either way. The shop was doing so well now that I even found time and money to order a few boxes of card packs and stand around and open them. And I just stood there in the corner of the store opening 236 packs in one go. It was ridiculous. Even with the fast opening mod, they took so long to open that the shop was almost ready to close. I did a quick round of stocking and then called it a day. Here's the thing, this is where things started to get a bit silly, because it really started to become a long slug of stocking and opening packs. It was rare that I had to step in and get involved, so days 69 and 70 were really just spent bulking up my card collection. And as much as I'd like to show you each day, it would just be boring. However, on day 71, I expanded the store again, and even splurged on the AutoScent T1000, the top level stinky sprayer. People online had mentioned that this bad boy can sit in the storeroom and still nail people through the wall as they come in. Also, it only needed one spray to clear the stinker fog, so it really was the ultimate machine. Oh, and this guy held 8 cans of spray. 8! I sold off the 2 old ones and that cleared a bit of room on the shop floor too. Also, a quick update on our card collection. We're at 865. Realistically, we should be at around 950, but it was becoming more challenging to find new cards. Also, things from here on started to get pretty repetitive. Day 72 all the way through to day 75, all I did was literally man the till, stock the shelves, or just stand around opening card packs. I won't lie, I think half of that time was just me letting the game run while I browsed Reddit. On day 76 I hit a new milestone. Our account had hit 100k, a very impressive number to say the least, alongside almost 46k in revenue. We keep scaling up and it's so good to see. In the morning I launched the next step of my plan, which was to move around the tills so that they were as close to the door as we could possibly get them. This way, once the customer had spent their money, they could get out as fast as they can, so that new customers could come in. I also started to shift the shelves to create space for us to add more of them. I ordered a few more shelves and got to work placing them around the store, and as close to the tills as I could get them. The idea being that they'd come in, grab what they want, and then get to the tills ASAP. I also needed to transfer stock from the tall shelves to the low ones, because the tall shelves ideally needed to go too. Every time I'd clear a shelf I could sell it. By the end of the day we had all the shelves placed and ready and all the old ones sold, and all I had to do was slowly fill them up. I spent the rest of the time getting all the stock in place and then went on to day 78. The store was ready at this point. I even hired Lauren to help with the store, because we seriously couldn't keep up. Despite that, I still found some time to stand around and open packs. When I eventually found some time between opening packs, I even expanded the store again, and I unlocked the epic Destiny card boxes, which meant that when the rare boxes ran out, we'd be replacing them with the epic ones. I put an order in for 60 of them and then got to work finding places for them to sit. Amidst all the chaos, I thought, how about more people to work for us? The thing is that we were making insane money now, so I hired Axel, who's very fast at everything. I pulled Lauren off the tills and had Axel take over, but the store closed before he could get to a till. After the store closed, I did a quick stock check and then hired Dennis again. I know he was quite slow last time, but every hand helps now. Day 79 rolled around, and after a quick go at restocking and ordering Dennis around, we got to work, with my army of staff stocking the shelves as best as they could. I bought another auto scent machine and shoved it in the corner by the door. And then honestly, I just stood on the top shelf and watched the shop for a while, and then realised I should use this time to actually open some packs. I even got another ghost card from it. And that was me for the rest of the workday, the fiend in the corner ripping open packs like a weirdo. With 20 days left of this challenge, I decided that it was all hands on deck, and especially considering how much goddamn money I was making, I hired everyone I possibly could and had them all stocking shelves. I spent some more time making some space for the epic card boxes, making sure to allocate spaces so the staff knew where to put stuff. I also bought 100 more boxes because we keep running low, and that was it. I grabbed 192 card packs in my hand and stood up on my favourite shelf so that I could rip packs in front of everyone. Day 81 was a whirlwind of business as usual. I spent most of it helping with replacing the old card boxes and ripping open over 400 packs of cards. Also, I did nothing on tills, but somehow we hit 57k in revenue by the end of the day, and the next day we hit 76k in revenue. That's an insane jump. At this point, there was very little to unlock, and very little for me to do, and it really just felt like a countdown to day 100. And also a chance to cram in as much card opening as possible, in the hope that we get closer to our target number. Day 83 and 84 were both the same. You know how it goes. I don't know how to make it more entertaining for you. I'm sorry. Oh, by the end of day 84, our bank account hit 200k, and we'd reached 90k revenue. And by day 85, we'd reached 937 cards out of 1,332. Now my guess that the ones remaining were so freaking rare that I was going to have a real hard time finding them within the next 15 days. And this is considering that opening packs is literally all I'm doing at the moment. It's why we're flying through the days, because I literally have nothing better to do. Also, 97k revenue for day 85. We'll hit 100k revenue within the next few days. To get an idea of how little I'm doing, here's a time lapse of some of day 86. See how literally nothing was happening? Well, apart from hitting 107k in revenue. For the sake of our sanity, I'm going to jump forward to our last day. Why? Because what you saw on day 86 is exactly what the rest of the days looked like. Just me stood in a corner holding like 500 plus packs of cards, ripping them open from sun up to sundown. This is the life of a trading card addict. Here's how day 100 looked. In my account I had over 750,000. I ordered more stock because I don't know why, and just for the fun of it I went on till for the day, as one last final hurrah. So, how did we fare after 100 days? I think we did good. We ended up with a grand total of 928,000 in the account, and we actually ended up collecting 1,047 cards, so we were only 285 cards off, which is not bad. Looking back at it now, I think collecting them all was a tad ambitious. Now, how did I fare after 100 days? Well, I know now that I will never be doing a 100-day challenge on a simulator game ever again. Because it was fun to start with, but by like day 65, I wanted to die. But on that positive note, if you got this far, then kudos to you. Seriously. So if you're here right now, at the end of a video, I need you to comment pineapple in the comment section, just so I know who the real ones are. I'll catch you soon. Bye.